Using past experience to help others is the journey we are taking in today's Hear Me, See Me conversation. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. Hear Me, See Me is a mental health awareness project and initiative of us here at WIBW TV based in Topeka, the capital of Kansas. Penny Kryfka is with me today. She is an advocate, a peer advocate for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness here in Kansas. Welcome to you, Penny.
Thank you for having me.
So what program is it in particular that you work with through NAMI?
It's the JIP program. It's Justice Involved Persons program, and I facilitate mental health support groups within the Kansas prisons and jails.
Okay, and since you're a peer advocate, I imagine that means you have quite a story that led you to this work.
Yes.
Where does it start? Do we start at the beginning or start at the end? Which is more appropriate?
Honestly, it's been lifelong for me because everybody's kind of different when it comes to the mental health conditions. I don't know a time where it wasn't part of my life since early childhood. My first, I guess, episode would be age 9, but my mother had told me it was sooner. And I basically spent from age 16 to 44 heavily medicated, either with illegal substances or pharmaceuticals.
Goodness.
And it was finally, when my mother passed, that was my breaking point. And I hit rock bottom, and that's when I realized I had to figure something else out because it wasn't working.
So what was your childhood like? Do you remember what happened at age 9?
I just remember not being able to figure out what to wear to school, and I broke down and just lost it. And unrealistic response to not being able to pick out an outfit.
It wasn't a temper tantrum. It was something
just like my world had ended. And basically from that point on until the age of 40, there wasn't a day where I didn't wake up where my very first thought was, I'm still alive. I have to live through this again. And I didn't know why, because I had parents that loved me. I had a good childhood. I didn't want for anything. So there was no abuse.
I was going to say, so this isn't a story of it was a bad home life,
Nope.
Nobody cared, and so you were left to your own
Correct.
devices. It was
That's
totally not like that at all.
Exactly, and that's why it was so odd to deal with as a kid. And then in my teen years, I just went to the drugs to numb myself because nobody could figure out. And my mom was really a big advocate on me not being put on meds as a child, which I'm grateful for. So we found our own ways for me to cope and kind of learn to mask, and I just learned to become functional. So like a lot of people, there's a lot of us out there.
What was school like? Because I'm trying to think, 9, 10, 11 years old, you're in elementary school.
Yeah.
And
Just,
how do you even know that there is some mental health challenge that's going on at that age?
yeah, because back then they didn't talk about mental health with kids or anybody.
Now, we're not that old, Penny.
But it just wasn't, it was like, this is what kids are going through. But I knew it wasn't right because, like, nobody else I knew wished to die every day for
Even
no
at
reason.
9, 10, 11 years old? You didn't want to be alive?
It was the very first thought. I didn't actively try to commit suicide, but it was like, what's the point? I didn't look forward to things. I felt like I was faking it.
Who was 9-year-old Penny sitting in the classroom then? When you were looking around in your classroom, what were you seeing?
So I didn't fit in, and so I tried everything too. I pretty much became like the class clown. I would make fun of myself, draw attention to myself, talk too much in school, anything to make it a joke, to where people just assumed I was just goofy,
Did your peers like you? Did you have friends?
Yeah, I had friends.
Because they thought you were kind of just fun-loving, great personality?
I hit it all from the whole time growing up, and luckily I had a very supportive mom, and we found a way. It wasn't the healthiest of ways, but what I ended up doing was actually making my own funeral, like orchestrating it. I would burn tapes. I would make tapes, and then it turned to CDs. But every other year, I would spend the whole year writing my eulogy, picking my songs, everything you could think of for a funeral.
You were how old?
That started at age 10 is when I started doing that.
Had you ever been to a funeral at that age?
No. I knew what they were, but
This was what your mom could think
it was
of as a way to cope.
Well, it was what I thought of,
Oh,
and
okay.
she just kind of went with it because it gave me something to work towards. As morbid as that sounds, I turned it into this, you can't spell funeral without fun. I didn't see it as a negative. I saw it as, my last hurrah, where I could say everything I wanted to say and nobody could say anything back.
Did you get good grades?
I did.
So you had good grades, you had friends. I mean, behind the scenes, what was your mom doing to try and figure this out? I mean,
letting me be myself and just not making me feel bad for feeling what I felt, even though she didn't understand it. And she would sit there once I was done with organizing my funeral, her and I would sit there and she would listen to it. She would listen to every song. She would listen to me read my eulogy. And as a mom, I cannot imagine what that had to have been like for her. But she did it and she held it together, no emotion, just let me purge.
Do you think she was looking for clues? And maybe that was it. Maybe she thought by letting you purge, that's a good way to put it.
I think she was wiser before her time, basically. She had a horrible childhood and she wanted the opposite for me, so she just allowed me to be who I was.
So then what happened as you moved on into high school? What was going on there? At what time did you start using substances?
16.
Okay, so you were in high school.
Yep, and basically it was just, I felt good. It was mainly LSD because, believe it or not, it helps a lot of people with mental health conditions. I don't know what it is, but
16 years old? I thought you were going to say, some marijuana, some alcohol. But wow, at 16, you went straight to LSD.
Yeah, well, marijuana, LSD, basically.
Goodness.
Those were the two, and cocaine and any kind of pill and just whatever you would put in front of me, I would do it.
And you were still holding it together and getting good grades and being fun Penny during all this time?
For the most part, yeah. Okay. Morbid Penny, but like
morbid but fun.
Yeah, it was, just that was me. And everybody just kind of dealt with it because it was, not, they didn't see nothing bad. I didn't try to do any harm, never was institutionalized. I was able to just like kind of pull it off, but I really wasn't pulling it off. I ended up making a lot of bad choices, illegal choices. I lucked out that I didn't end up in worse situations. And then when I decided to basically settle down and have kids, I knew that the drugs had to go away, which they did. And unfortunately, I had a bad first marriage and that didn't help. That's when I turned to the doctors. And they just, 20 years, 22 different med combinations, just numb. I spent just numb those decades. Of course, they took away my urge to want to die, but.
And when you're saying that was psychological medications?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's back up to what happens in those years as you got out of high school and before that first marriage and children came and you knew that the substance abuse portion of it in order to cope had to go away? What was going on there and how did that realization
I just
come
knew
to be?
I wanted to have kids and I knew I couldn't have drugs in me or be a drug user. And I'm grateful that that mindset kicked in because that's the only thing that stopped me from using.
How old were you at that time?
22 is when I had my first.
Okay. So, I don't want to say that this was a short amount of time, but it was a 6-year journey using substances to self-medicate.
Yeah, daily. Yeah.
But daily.
Pretty much.
You could not get through the day without something.
I probably could have. I just chose not to because only certain things were like addictive to me.
How did you get help then to know that you needed to get off the substances? Was it just as easy as snapping your fingers
No.
or
it
how
wasn't
did that help?
easy, but I was able to do it without going into rehabs. I was so terrified of getting labeled. And once, you've gone to a rehab or gone into a hospital, I've seen where that can lead, where people just put you in a box. And I was determined to stay out of those boxes. So I fought my way through it. What saved me was having a great support system. Good friends, parents, so they kind of cushioned the blow for me when I hit my lowest, But so I got off the drugs, but the pharmaceutical ones were just as bad.
What was your low point?
My lowest point was when my mom died. Before that,
So that was way later on.
That was when I hit 40. Yeah.
Okay. So you had friends, support. You didn't get off the substances alone. You had children. The group you're involved in is the Justice Involved Persons. Where did that part of the story come in?
I sold drugs when I was younger, primarily just to keep my own habit going.
Was this in the 16 to 22-year-old age frame?
Yeah.
And so there was some incarceration involved, or
I only
were
was
you
arrested once, thank goodness, and it was in Illinois because that's where I'm from. And I lucked out. I blame it on the fact that I'm who I am they look at me and they tend to walk, I get slapped on the wrist for things and I'll admit it. I totally will admit it. But it was enough to be like, I can't do this. So.
What made you finally decide to go to a doctor for help?
The fact that even when the drugs were gone, as much as I tried to fake it, I couldn't feel enjoyment about anything, and I knew I should have been. Like with my kids and stuff, I wanted to be more involved as a parent, but it was just mentally, I couldn't be. And I didn't know how to get past that, so that's when I sucked it up and went to many therapists and doctors.
How hard was it? And did you kind of go through a cycle where you made the appointment or you picked up the phone, but you didn't quite get through the door?
I actually, once I did it, I did, but I went through quite a few therapists because I found there were a lot more bad ones out there than there were good in my situation.
People not right for you.
Yes, and it wasn't a good fit. I had to learn to be my own advocate because a lot of times we don't want to tell people our darkest thoughts. And that will actually inhibit them from helping you. So I had to learn to actually work myself and not just expect some magic pill or, But I finally got there.
And you were prescribed medications to perhaps try and help.
Yes, and it basically, from what my experience was, it just numbed my central nervous system. I just didn't feel anything. I didn't feel happy, I didn't feel sad, I had no temper. I just was floating through, but it kept bad thoughts away, but that was about it.
What happened when your mom passed away?
Well, I had always envisioned that I was going to be the one that died at 40. I had a morbid sense about that, and she passed away when I was 40. And so in a way, I kind of look at it as that was my death, because I didn't cry at her funeral. I put it all together. I made jokes. It was...
You were fun, Penny.
I held it all together. I took a lot of pharmaceuticals to make it through. I will admit that. But I would say within a year after her death, all of a sudden, I couldn't function physically. I literally was on the ground, on my hands and knees, because my body from the neck down didn't want to work anymore. And I know it's so weird to explain it, but I kept doing it, and I would spend an average of 8 to 14 hours a day. Not all in one chunk, but like an hour here, 40 minutes here, just on the floor. And my husband, that I'm currently married to, would put a plate of food underneath my face, basically, so I would eat. I lost function of my bowels, and I just never knew. I thought I was dying. And I went to specialist after specialist. They ran every possible test there is to run on me. Everything physically was fine, but they're like, it has to be in your head. But I wasn't sad, I wasn't depressed, I wanted to get up, I wanted to clean, I was still working. I would wear my uniform for work in that position just so I could save time to make it to work, because it was that hard. I'd be up and then all of a sudden my body would be like, get down, just get down on the ground. Finally, after going to a couple of therapists, one finally asked me, she's like, show me what you mean. And I showed her the position that I was in, and she immediately was like, that's the freeze position. That's PTSD, that's CPTSD. And I immediately, never once thought that.
Like chronic PTSD? Or what is this?
Complex.
Complex PTSD, okay.
Yes. Because I, like many people, would hear PTSD, I think soldiers, the normal thing. But I have come to realize that it can be anything.
The death of a very important central
event.
person in your family.
Yeah. And
Can
that
lead to
was
PTSD.
basically the breaking point. And I found that there was something worse than death, because being on the floor for hours and not being able to move, I'm like, no, something has to change. And at that point, I was on 7 different meds, and 5 of them were like antidepressants and psychotropics. They had me on the highest dose of Adderall, the highest dose of Oxycontin, and that was for my back. I already knew I was addicted to that one. And I'm like, this all has to change. And that's when I sought treatment and went off everything. And so since 2018, it's all gone. And I feel so much better.
Is this like the whole trial and error thing? Like you have to find, so your prior therapists, even though you were finding some folks who you felt you connected with, the medications seemed to be what they were trying to
nobody
use
was helping me figure out how to get rid of,
like what was the root of what was
Yes,
going on.
yes, that.
Instead of treating what was happening, what was causing what was
Yes,
happening.
Exactly. And I found that was the key. I had to finally just face everything, because mine ended up, once everything was out of my system and I went through my treatment, things started coming back to me, like memories that I had suppressed for so many years. I always had like an incredible fear of the dentist, and come to realize my pediatric dentist wasn't necessarily the best man in the world, and some things I'm assuming happened. Obviously, I have no proof of this, but based off of my reactions and the vision, like not visions, but images, I guess you would say, like snapshots.
So like maybe your childhood wasn't as beautiful as you
There was
thought
some
it was?
things that I blocked, and I think that was my coping mechanism as a kid. But the root of it primarily for me was medical. I was born sick, and I had to spend the first 6 months in a hospital away from my parents. And now we know how important stuff like that is and how that can ingrain into a child's brain. And I have huge abandonment issues. Even though no one really abandoned me, that's just how it kind of played out. Like to where I over worry about losing people in my life. And, you know, so I can see everything now and why I have certain reactions. And so now it doesn't have that kind of power. I mean, it's all still there. I have PTSD or CPTSD. I have depression. I have anxiety. But I can control on my own how it affects me because I know what my triggers are.
And for you in your situation, do you need any medication now? Anything like periodically that you turn to?
No, I pretty much go to coping skills. I've learned a lot of different ways that we can actually manage ourselves without doing them. I'm not saying it's for everybody, obviously, but people they underestimate the power they have. Your brain is very strong, and it can make you sick and it can make you healthy. So you just got to learn to listen to it and get back to that original moral compass, so to speak.
So what do you have to do today to make sure that when you get up, like, are there days where you still get up and you feel like you still have that?
No, I basically since 2018, that was the last time I've woken up. I never feel that way anymore. I may be achy, normal stuff, but I don't wish for death. I don't plan my funeral. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I want to live life, and I mean, it's still hard. There's still stresses, obviously, and a lot of things still bother me, but I've learned that if I can't control it, then I need to just focus on my path,
So many lessons learned. And I want to talk
Yes.
about those and how you now are using those to kind of pay it forward and help others. That conversation is coming up in just a moment. Welcome back into the Hear Me, See Me podcast. Penny Kryfka is our guest today. She is an advocate with NAMI Kansas, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. Penny, you're a peer advocate with the Justice Involved Persons Program. Your journey, my goodness, from starting as a child, having those feelings of depression, anxiety, feeling like you didn't want to be part of this world anymore, and then leading to addiction, leading to a breaking point, and now being a happy, healthy self.
I
mean, you look great.
Yes,
I love
thank
it. Gosh, lessons learned here. You're involved with the Justice Involved Persons Program. What is it that drew you to be a peer advocate and a peer mentor through that program?
I have to say that I can relate to people that have had a lot of similar struggles, and I also find they relate to me more than somebody who's just got the book smarts, because they know that I've lived it, and they can see that there are ways around it. I don't sugarcoat it for them. It's not like it's going to be sunshine and rainbows one day and you're never going to have to work at it. You're always going to have to work at it. But if you really want it, it is achievable. A lot of people, especially those that I've met within the system, grew up thinking they had no power at all. or that they were worthless, or, they weren't going to amount to anything. And that stuck throughout their entire lives, because a lot of them had horrible childhoods in comparison to what I went through. So I can't even imagine what they may be thinking, but I know that it's just because it's been ingrained in them, and they just need to break that thought and realize that that's not who they are. And once I see somebody with that aha moment where they hear the thing they needed to hear, and it's not advice, it's just another human telling them, you are worth it. We all make mistakes, but you have to want it and actually stick to it and not depend on somebody else fixing it for you. And when they finally hear whatever they need to hear, it's like, oh, that makes sense, or this makes sense. And they start seeing the dots. And that's what it took for me to finally break it. So I'm hoping that there's like a ripple effect out there, and if I can just get to one person to help them not feel like death is the only option.
You mentioned that you finally came to that realization that your brain is more powerful than you think. Mm-hmm. And can help you overcome.
Yeah.
And we would touch a lot on in these conversations as well, that it's not an instant fix. No. And how important is that for people to realize that, I'm not going to come in here, sit down with you in this one session today, and you're going to walk out if you're instantly better and never have to do any of the work. We all kind of have to do the work.
Yeah, it's majorly important, because I was one of those people that thought that. And it was, okay, whatever they tell me to do something, I'm like, whatever, that sounds too simple, that can't work, or I was looking for the magic pill. And yeah, it's not, I've never met one person yet who was able to just go in on one appointment and come out and everything was fine. I mean, there might be some out there, but the likelihood of that happening, you've got to face things, and I don't know anyone who doesn't have something to face.
That's true. That's very true. We all have something. And I think that's important to realize as well, in terms of what you would perhaps tell other people, that we have to give each other a little bit of grace.
Yeah. Because everybody has a story, and it's never going to be the same. The triggers will never be the same. The traumas will all be different, but the darkness is the same. I don't care who you are. When you're there, you know what it feels like. And it doesn't matter what anyone says at that point. They can be like, oh, I'm sorry, or just go exercise, or no, that's not what they need to hear. They need to hear that, yeah, this is life, and sometimes it's going to be hard. Things are going to stick longer than you want them to, but it's worth living, and there is a purpose one way or another. And I haven't learned any lessons in the good stuff. I always learn from the bad. So in a way, it's a blessing. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, and how much is it too a factor of continual work? So even if you reach the realization that you have to do the work, so you do the work, and then you're feeling better, but it doesn't end there, I imagine. No. I mean, how much is it continually needing to touch base with yourself, do the work, reassess?
It turns more fluid, or at least in my experience, because that's how life is. You have to be able, like what would Bruce Lee say, be like water. You have to be like that. You have to be able to adapt, because COVID should have taught people that. Everything can change in 2 seconds, just like that. So don't expect it to always be running smooth, because that's not realistic. But don't expect it to be bad either. Just adapt as it comes. Choose your battles wisely, because it's going to change. That's the one thing about life that's a guarantee.
What are some of those coping mechanisms that you try to impart to others? So like when you feel a bad day's coming on, what are some of those things that you do, those strategies that you use?
Sunlight, being outdoors, even if it's just just a 10-minute walk. You'd be amazed at what being outside can do for you. Just no cell phone, no distractions. Mindfulness.
I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to put it over here so I can't see it. I'm being mindful of you, Penny.
I do a lot of mindfulness stuff. I like to use leaves, where you take a leaf and you just like hold it and look at the veins in it and just focus on that moment, and it'll take you out of negative thoughts. If I have ruminating thoughts, which like keep going on a pattern, a great way to stop that is I am left-handed. I do everything with my left hand. So if, say, there's a negative thought in my head that I know shouldn't be there, and I'm getting ready to brush my teeth, I'll do it with my right hand. Because your cell memory, when you go to do it, is I have to think to do it, because you naturally do the same thing. You put your pant leg on the same one every time. we're creatures of habit. There's patterns in everything. But if you change it, your brain is forced to focus, and so it has to cut that thought. So the thought stops. And sometimes you just need it to stop for a few seconds for it to be gone.
You're forced to look at something a different way.
Yeah, exactly. The drink's not half empty, it's half full. Just be happy you have a drink.
Isn't that true? How important are support people in your life?
They play a huge role, because in the times when you're not yourself or when things get scary, it's nice to have somebody that you know will just hold you. They don't have to give advice. They'll just hear you out, and it's like a safe place to land. And I love my support people. It's mainly my husband.
Well, I'm thinking about, and I'm thinking about that. How grateful are you? Because when you think back now, how hard must that have been for him? And I'm sure you didn't want it for him, and maybe that was going through your head as well. It's like, why are you sitting here giving me a plate of food when I'm lying on the floor? Just go, just go. I wouldn't blame you if you just left.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't. He stayed.
Yeah, and I'll never be able to repay him for that, because I did feel immense guilt the whole time. Like, what kind of mother am I? What kind of wife am I? This is not what this man signed up for. And he never once complained about it. He never made me feel guilty about it. He was always on board, and I don't know what I would have been able to do. I wouldn't have been able to do it without him.
And what is your relationship with your kids, if I may ask?
I think we're great now.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't talk to me as much as I like, but that's because I'm a needy person. But
I think most moms feel like that, right? but it took some work to repair that.
Yeah. And I never realized until in my 40s the damage that I had done to them, unintentionally, mind you, but they saw their mom going through things that they didn't understand, and I wasn't mentally there for them like I should have been. I may have been physically, and I've made amends. I apologize for it. I don't give excuses. I don't blame it on the mental health, because they were kids. It doesn't matter. They didn't need excuses. They needed a parent. And none of us do it right, but you have to swallow the ego and admit that before your kids will be like, oh, okay, thank you for that validation. And so now I'd like to say I have a great relationship with both of them.
How do you take that first step? For those who are afraid to take that first step and think, what I did, I'm not even sure if I would forgive me if I were in their shoes. So how do you get over that? You said swallow your ego, but how do you take that first step to reach out?
I had to write it out first, and it took some time, but I finally was like, you just be honest with me, just tell me. And I had to allow them the chance to just say what it was that I did without interrupting them, without being like, well, you didn't know what it was like. No, no. It doesn't matter. I just listened, and I think that was the biggest thing for them, was that they were actually heard. And most people, I think that's what it is. They just want to be heard. Validate
their experience, validate their feelings as something that is legitimate.
Exactly.
What is the first step for someone who is sitting there struggling? Maybe they are a person who is, in trouble with the law, or their relationships are broken and they don't feel like they have a support person there. What would be the first thing that you would recommend somebody do?
I would have to say, if they don't have a support system, I would recommend them find somebody with talk therapy, not like a psychiatrist, but somebody who just will listen to them talk. Or finding a peer support group if they don't want to do one-on-one type, because a lot of people are hesitant about therapy. So in peer support, we're not therapists, we don't have license, it's a matter of just talking. And I think that would be a great first step for people, that and journaling, because writing things down in the moment especially is so important, because you can look back on it later and you can start to see patterns. And you can do a lot of the work yourself if you're willing, to actually do it.
And that's an important piece of advice too,
Yes.
I would imagine.
Yes.
That these things take work.
Yes,
we
they
all
do.
take work. We're all humans, so we all take work.
We have the time, and it's not getting better. The stigma is starting to fade, which is great, but just as many people are still suffering. So, and the world's not the happiest of places in the moment. So you need to find a way to just devote to yourself and your own mental well-being. I personally think it should be like a yearly thing, like a mammogram and all that other stuff, where you yearly get a checkup on just your thoughts, because everybody goes through trauma.
Well, you said we can do some of the work ourselves. So like make an appointment in your calendar for you. This is my meeting with me.
Yeah, you're worth it.
And a lot of these resources too, because I think sometimes we're, that's really great of you to say, Penny, but I don't have a lot of money. I mean, you know, I've been through all of this. I've had these struggles. I lost my job. I've done X, Y, Z. NAMI has free options.
Yes.
If you call different places, a lot of these support groups can be free.
Yes, and I do believe that there is one in Topeka at the moment, and I know Lawrence also has them. I'm not sure about the rest of them, but we're wanting more. That would be great. And I personally think that there should be like a support group dedicated to just people who have been incarcerated, so that they have a place once they're out to like go with, to where, because other people may not necessarily understand their plight, you know, and I think they need a safe place still, because life's going to be hard for them getting out as well, you know, and I think more people need to do peer support.
And because the thing is, people think they're alone, but they're not.
No, not at all.
Just get outside yourself and you can find a person, your people.
You'd be surprised where you can find people. I find them all over the place. You just have to be willing to talk about it. And a lot of people don't like being vulnerable, but we all are, so what do you got to lose?
Yeah. If people take nothing else away from our conversation today, Penny, what do you want them to remember? What's your main thing?
Main thing.
Main message.
You're here for a reason, so find your reason and just live through it. It's supposed to be that way.
Life's pretty good on the other side.
I think it will be, yeah.
I love it. Penny, thank you so very much.
Thank you so
and
much
I love
for
what you
having
said
me.
there, because it's kind of our whole theme here. People just want to be heard. People
Yes.
just want to be seen. And so if you don't find it anywhere else, find it here with us.
That's
on
right.
the red furniture, on the red couch. We hear you. We see you.